Those officers will deal with their own calls, and if there's a high volume for calls in another area, and I'm talking all 5 areas, and/or a disaster of any sorts, those resources will just slide left to right. There'll be an incident commander assigned, which will be myself or Staff Sergeant Burton, and we'll make sure that we bring things back to normalcy as quickly as possible, and then those policing assets go back to their zones. We also have a number of detachments close by to us, so we can call on them if required.
Thank you very much. Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Your Worship. At our last Police Services Board meeting, Inspector Ferguson made the same report. And one of the interesting things that I found in the report is something that is not commented on directly, the number of impaired driving charges. And immediately my mind sort of goes in the direction that, well, it's these darn kids that are out there and they're not out of control, and what are we going to do about that? And Inspector Ferguson made all of us aware that the people who are in the main doing the impaired driving is people like you here. Like there's a message got to get to
that I found in the report is something that is not commented on directly.
Of our society,
The number of impaired driving charges, and immediately my mind sort of goes in the direction that, well, it's these darn kids that are out there and they're not out of control, and
people at home. I think
what are we going to do about
the
that?
teenagers and the
Inspector
20-year-olds in our
Ferguson
community deserve a real pat
Made
in the back
all of
for
us
driving
aware
responsibly.
that the people who are in the main doing
Thank you for
the
those
impaired
comments.
driving
Any other
is
questions
people
for our
like
detachment
you.
commander? I think, Andrew, in terms of everybody in this room, council and our citizens and those watching, thank you and your team for all you do for us. We sleep well because you're there for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Your Worship. I appreciate that.
And next up, we have item 5B, which is a presentation from Waypoint and Chigamik on our community health hub. So we have the hospital CEO Carol Lambie and Director of Chigamik David Jeffrey. So welcome, Carol and David. In this room, council and our citizens and those watching, thank you and your team for all you do for us.
Coming to our rescue with technology, so thank you. Your Worship, member of council, it's a pleasure to be here this evening just to give you an update on the work that's going on our community health
Next
hub.
up, we have item 5B, which is a
You'll hear
presentation from
my
Waypoint
partner,
and
David Jeffrey,
Chigamik on our
Director of
community health hub. So
but I also wanted to recognize Ruth Cameron, our Director of Refugee Services, programs will be moving into the building. One back there, and he's missing now, but John Rodnick, who is from the Hero Center. Oh, there he is. From the Hero Center. These programs will also be moving in the building, who's helping us with all the communications to share this with I think an important point is to remember the vision that we had as Chigamik and Waypoint came together to vision this new building, and that is that we would be able to collaborate together to deliver a wider range of healthcare services to look after people's both physical and mental health needs through a centrally located health hub in the downtown Midland area. And so, as many of you I'm sure know, this new building will co-locate Chigamik's Community Health Center, which is currently on King Street in Midland, and 2 current locations of Waypoints, our outpatient programs, which are in the parking lot at Georgian Bay General Hospital, which is the building in the parking lot, and our community programs in downtown Midland. One of the things about the downtown proximity is it increases accessibility for our clients, especially for those who walk or take the bus, and that was certainly one of the considerations as we look for a suitable location. By co-locating, and the province has a real focus on community hubs, whether it's health hubs or any other kind of hub, there's a real opportunity to gain some synergies and efficiencies and share resources, and so we're very much looking forward to doing that. We appreciate our partnership with the town of Midland, and really this will settle, this will be the 3rd time I've been in the role and moved outpatient, so this will settle us for quite some time going into the long-term future, so we're very excited about that. Waypoint is also pleased to be the newest member of the Simcoe County Hospital Alliance, and we are so appreciative of the generous support of the County of Simcoe for capital projects for hospitals, and we will be using a portion of these funds from the county for this project. So once again, we're very appreciative of that, because although it is supported from the Ministry of Health to a certain degree, there are also local share requirements, and so that very much helps us with that. We have, and David will talk more about ongoing community engagement, but certainly as we were developing the new health centre, we took into consideration feedback from the community and various public meetings and built that into our planning process. So I'll turn it over to David now to talk more about the work underway. It is supported from
Merci, bonsoir tout le monde. Thank you for the chance to speak with you tonight. It's a very exciting time for us, I think for the whole community as well. So, progress to date. Site work is underway, as you probably have seen. We're on Bayshore Drive in Midland. If you drive by there, you'll see lots of action going on there and a big billboard illustrating the shape and look of the building. Waypoint and Chickabiddick continue to work through the approval process with the Ministry of Health, which has many steps. Working towards the new building being ready for occupancy, we're hoping by December of this year. So that's pretty quick. Progress today. We're having staff groups meet, that's user group input into the shape, design, and look and feel of the internal shape, and the spacing, and the composition of the rooms. And we're doing ongoing consultations on how we're going to increase the collaboration to improve access and determine how our two organizations will work best together. So we're not seeing this as a roof with two different tenants, but rather a building with an integrated system of care, which is pretty exciting. We're having staff groups So some recent milestones, we've taken a construction manager approach. That person was appointed to Gilman Construction August of 2017. The site plan approval in principle by October, and then in December, the first building permit. So that's kind of the journey. The site excavation commenced on December, and then the first concrete pour was in January, we'll figure, in January, but they made it work. There's a whole science to that I don't understand, but it worked. Preliminary construction underway as of March, so we're seeing the steel show up, and that's going to start becoming put up very soon. So the good news is that by the approach we've taken, which is a construction management approach, we've been able to engage many local and regional contractors. So you're seeing lots of employment of local folk and businesses through this enterprise. So we're seeing already a contribution to the local economy with workers on site and in the community. So community engagement. So we're on a bit of a tour, Carol and I, meeting with various councils in the region to share kind of what's up, how this is going. And we planned an open house at Chickabiddick in the Cedar Room for May 7th at 4:30, where you can come with lots of detailed questions if you have them. The architect will be there, the project manager, and the site construction manager will all be there, and we'll have renderings and some floor plans so you can get a really good close look at what this is going to look like and how it's going to work. We have regular website updates with photos from construction sites. Photos are also on social media through the project, so either of our websites, chickabiddick.ca or waypointcenter.ca, have a look at the photos if you're interested, and in our shareholder newsletters as well. I just want to show you a few photos. So this is like I'm a handy dandy pointer. The site, obviously, the hill, the bluff over on this side. And we're digging in there. And the Bayshore Drive is down on the left, at the upper part of the left-hand part of the photo. Just another shot here of we're setting some of those. You can see there's quite a bit of relief over the space of the property. And there's quite a bit of a hill here, so we're putting in a retaining wall here, and you can see just there the elevator shaft starting to be put up. More detail of a similar thing. This is, I think, January. There's snow on the ground. The good news with the site, there was a lot of sand, so it wasn't very muddy. So that produced for a better construction site. And then a couple of renderings. This is a winter shot. Over here will be the front door entrance, and over here is Bayshore Drive. And of course, the lake, the bay is to the left. And here, the entrance will be right about there, and this is Bayshore Drive. We're looking east. there. It's a two-story building. It's 40,000 square feet. And again, this is looking from Bayshore Drive up the hill, and this is what the building will look like. The exterior cladding will be, it's a hard plastic covered wood composite, so it'll have the impression of being a wood-cladded building. And what the architect said about this little spot here will be lit up at night, it will have kind of a lantern effect. When you're driving along and you see the space from the road at nighttime. So we're pretty excited by that. If there's any questions, Council?
Thank you much. Any questions for a guest on this particular one? No, Nita says whispers in the background. It's a great project, and I agree. And we agree as well. No, certainly well done for the folks in the room. For David and Carol, this is like a water on a rock to get these projects off the ground. It's a long journey to get here, and a lot of hard effort goes in, a lot of labor, and a lot of meetings, and a lot of discussions and paperwork and planning goes into this. So it's kind of like building a house. You see the foundation going in, but it was all the work before that. I really want people to know there's a tremendous amount of effort to make this successful. So well done, and we wish you both all the best with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And moving on to agenda item number 6, it's the zoning bylaw amendment application ZA 2018 for 173 and 177 Robert Street East. And for the official minutes, Councillor Rawson has declared a pecuniary interest in this one. This is a public meeting under the Planning Act to consider the application to amend the town zoning bylaw. And first, though, I'll turn it over to our planning director first, the staff, to introduce the application, and then I'm pretty sure the proponent wants to speak.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, members of council and the public. This is a public meeting under the Planning Act. The town received an application to amend the zoning bylaw on January 15th, 2018. The properties are municipally known as 173 and 177 Robert Street East. The application seeks a site-specific amendment to the zoning bylaw, specifically to the industrial services M1 zone related to lot coverage, and to amend for this site only the definition of lot coverage so that it is for the footprint of the building, not each floor above grade. So notice of the public meeting was given on March 19th by direct mailing to property owners within 120 meters, as well as the required agencies. It was posted on the town's website, and a notice sign was installed in accordance with town policies. In addition, new changes under the Planning Act required that the proponents of an application hold a private consultation, which I'm sure Mr. Tremblay will outline in his presentation, but that has been conducted. So in regards to the notice, we have not received any formal comments from the public. We did receive one comment from Enbridge with no comments or concerns, which you should find in your package.
Thank you very much. So, Mark, over to you.
Thank you. Your Worship, council members, staff, and everyone here tonight. Good evening. Bonsoir à tous. My name is, mon nom, c'est Marc Tremblay, un directeur et principal at Champlain Pharma. Since late 2013, I've been active in the medical cannabis industry as a partner in a medical clinic that specializes in the patient care in that space. I've received many and heard many compelling stories from patients claiming that the treatment of medical cannabis was in many cases life-changing, either for themselves or for a loved one. Sadly, the demand for such a premium product does not come close to meeting the supply. And that's one of the main reasons why Champlain was born. So Champlain is a relatively new applicant licensed producer. A licensed producer is an entity that is regulated by Health Canada to cultivate medical cannabis. We've submitted our application December of 2017, and we've acquired the property, the building at 177 Robert Street in October of 2017. The facility provides 15,000 square feet of suitable space for phase one of our endeavor. I'd like to highlight that we will apply the best of technology that's available in the industry to ensure that we are environmentally responsible, as well as able to sustain the products, the medical products that our patients are deserving and looking for. Of course, out of that will come job creation. And with this highly sophisticated and engineered facilities and systems, we can ensure that the medical consumer needs will be well looked after. A little bit more about the technology. Unlike what most of us might be familiar with, we will be growing cannabis plants, but without the use of any soil, for a number of reasons. Hydroponics, in our case aeroponics, is highly specific. It allows us to really dial in the growth of that plant and the end result of that plant, which contributes to the overall quality of the medicine. It uses approximately 80% less water and significantly less nutrients for not only the same but better results at the end. And the fact that we're not using any soil means that we don't have to dispose of that soil afterwards. Thank you for doing that. And that soil might, in some cases, be, potentially with contaminants. Our approach is to provide a sustained amount of oils, medical oils or extractions that the patients seem to favor. And although our focus is primarily on CBD, CBD is the cannabinoid that is non-sedative, non-psychoactive, very safe for all ages, including young ones to not so young ones. But we also understand, based on our experience, that in some cases, the addition of some THC is very beneficial to complete the appropriate treatment for the patient. We thrive to become a center for excellence in every area, and that this first phase will be the model for future phases. As Andrea already mentioned, there's been an application for a zoning amendment change. The current property next to 177, which is 173 Robert Street, that we acquired in December of this year as well, is currently zoned as a M1, which simply means that 50% of lot coverage would be the maximum that we could utilize. The amendment is to allow us to have a lot coverage of approximately 70%. It could be less, but that it would allow us to utilize the maximum amount of space so that we can increase the amount of production. By increasing the amount of production, there's a whole bunch of ripple effects that I will address a little later. We're actively working with local architect, engineers, to complete the site plan for 173, with our submission to the town of Penetanguishene scheduled for later this year, June or July timelines. Without the M3 rezoning possibilities, our original employment would look in the areas of 40 to 60 staff. With the zoning amendment, allowing us to increase the number of rooms and space to cultivate and to process, would increase the staffing need from about 60 to 90 over time. The projected payroll in 2021 is in excess of $11 million. So I'm sure many of you can imagine the associated positive financial contributions to local business and the community at large. And I will say that these positions are going to be well paid and with really meaningful jobs and purposes. Champlain is committed to partnerships in many areas within the industry, but not limited to the industry as well. We are committed to the community partnerships and to ensure the protection of all of our children. We believe that the best way to protect them is to provide the right education. And we have a formal commitment to that as well. We're all about harm reduction. We always encourage that a patient that is medicating with cannabis be under the care of a physician, ideally their family physician, but if not, clinics like ours can help them in those areas, along with the help and support from our medical staff. We're proponents of less is more, meaning that often when patients come to see us, when they've been self-medicating, that we're able to really mitigate the amount of medication that they are consuming under the appropriate treatment plan and care of medical professionals. We thrive for consistent quality, consistency, and a standardized product. In order to really address our request to the public, we've had a open house on February the 8th at our location at 177 Roberts Street, where approximately 140 participated. Present were our architect and many agents of Champlain to answer any questions and potentially any concerns that were raised. There were a couple of inquiries at the open house regarding the zoning, and proper clarification was given. So no comments of opposition or concerns were raised during that time. The site plan illustration and lot coverage was provided at the open house as well. In addition to that, I personally took it upon myself in an outreach initiative to our neighbors within a 350 radius area. So I did some door-to-door knocking to the businesses within that perimeter, as well as homes. We handed out some bilingual handouts as well, and no opposition. In fact, I was really enthused by the level of optimism and encouragement that I've received from talking to local businesses or even the citizens in the general area. So I thank you for your time this evening, for your consideration. Should you have any questions, I'll make myself available. Je suis disponible après la réunion ce soir pour répondre à vos questions. And I also have a limited amount of copies of this presentation available for those who might be interested as well. And my contact information is on those presentations, and I do have business cards as well.
Thank you for that, Mark.
Thank you.
So does any member of the audience have any questions on this application, either wishes to speak for or against the application? So it's a formal meeting, Bill, so note, we name and address up to the microphone. This is a formal process, sorry, we're very judicial-like. But no, please welcome to speak, but just you have to go to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Nope, that's fine.
You're good?
Okay, anybody else wish to speak in favor, for or against? No? Any member of council have questions for either Mark or our planner on this one? Alrighty, seeing none, then thank everybody for their attendance and participation, and this council will consider the bylaw actually a little later in tonight's meeting. So thanks everybody for that. And moving on to agenda item number 7 and 7A, it's moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that the following minutes of council meetings be confirmed as adopted as circulated. Special council minutes, March 28, 2018. Council minutes, March 28, 2018. Committee of the Whole minutes, March 28, 2018. Special Committee of the Whole, April 4th, 2018. Any comments, questions, errors, or omissions on those? Councillor Saunders, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. If you go down to the Committee of the Whole minutes, the very last item is a motion, moved by Counselor somebody and seconded by Counselor somebody. And I think that's just a typo, and perhaps it could be rectified.
We can track that back from the official bylaws, and so duly note that, Kelly and Jeff.
Yeah, Your Worship, we will certainly, we'll get the minutes corrected, and we'll get the proper names inserted there.
Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions on any of the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Then all in favor? And those minutes are carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to our consent agenda item, correspondence from Georgian Bay General Hospital. Read the 2018 Community-Based Nominations Committee. And I think they're looking for a member to sign up for. I think Councillor Rawson and Councillor Saunders have been there before for the recruitment of their board members, and I think there's a vacancy. Jeff, did you want to speak to this so we can address council and see if we want to fill that vacancy, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. As I understand it, generally speaking, the municipalities, the 4 municipalities within North Simcoe alternate, and 2 municipalities per year take part and sit on this community-based nominations committee. I understand there's a need for Penetanguishene to fill in, despite last year being Penetanguishene's year. I understand that they have requested 1 member of council to sit on that nominations committee, and so we're looking fairly quickly, as I think they've already had 1 meeting, but the role that the member of council will play will essentially assist the hospital in selecting 3 members of their board of directors from a governance perspective, and I think it's an exciting opportunity for town council to participate.
Thank you very much. Does any member of council wish to sit on this and represent the town? Councillor Saunders? Okay, thank you very much. So may I look for a mover and seconder that Councillor Saunders fill that position for us. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor LaRose. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And thank you very much for that, Councillor Saunders. And for the record, that's Councillor Saunders' second time doing this for us, so we do appreciate that. Moving on to agenda item 9A. And it's moved by Councillor Levy, second by Councillor Lauder, that this report be received for discussion and staff be prepared to direct, and that staff be directed to prepare a report for the next committee of the whole meeting to address any comments received at the public meeting. And again, Councillor Rawson has declared a pecuniary interest in this matter. Any comments or questions on this? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Then all in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to agenda item 10A, and this is presentation and considerations of reports from our last committee of the whole. The first one in front of us is moved by Councillor LaRue, seconded by Councillor Mayotte, that the recommendations contained within committee of the whole report related to the Recreation and Community Service section be approved. Does any member of council wish to pull any of these items for further debate or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for vote then. All in favor? Those minutes are carried. Moving on to planning and development, it's moved by Councillor Levy, seconded by Councillor Lauder, that the recommendations contained within committee of the whole report related to the planning and development services section be approved. Does anyone wish to pull any of these items for further discussion and or debate? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? And those are all approved and carried. Moving on to 10A, Transportation and Environmental Services. Moved by Councillor LaRose, second by Councillor Rawson, that the recommendations contained within the committee of the whole report related to the Transportation and Environmental Services section be approved. Does anyone wish to pull any of these items for further discussion or debate? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? And those are approved. Moving on to Finance and Corporate Services, it's moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that the recommendations contained within the committee of the whole report related to the Finance and Corporate Services section be approved. Does anyone wish to pull any of these items for discussion and or debate? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? And those are approved. Moving on to agenda item number 11, presentation and consideration of report from special committees. Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that the recommendations contained within the special committee of the whole report be approved. Any comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that is carried and approved. Moving on to agenda item number 12, motions of which notice has been previously given. We have none. Item 13 is notices of motion. Does any member of council have a notice of motion to bring forward at tonight's meeting? Seeing none, we'll move on to considerations of bylaws, and we have one of those in front of us. Moved by Councillor Saunders and seconded by the Deputy Mayor that the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene introduce the following bylaws: 2018-21, 2018-22, 2018-23, and that the bylaws be read a first time, deemed to be read a second time, a third time, and carried. Does anyone wish to pull any of these bylaws for discussion? See none, I'll call for the vote. Then all in favor? And those are approved. Move on to item number 15, question period from the media and public. Elizabeth, any questions? I've asked her for 8 years in a row back there. She's never had a question. And from the public, does any member of the public have any questions on what's been undertaken so far? Alrighty, announcements and inquiries. Does any member of council have an announcement? Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to bring to Council's attention and to the public, Sustainable Severn Sound is introducing a film series during Earth Week, and the one that will be in our community is called Beyond the Flood. It's Thursday, April 19th, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Penetanguishene Public Library. Really would encourage you to take the time. There's also one that will be at the Midland Library. It's Just Eat It, it's called, and it's perhaps more suitable to people that work. It's from 6:30 to 8:30 on April 18th. And Beyond Crisis is a little ways away from us. It's in MacTier. The other one is, again, Beyond Crisis, which will be at the Tay Public Library on April 25th. So I do think these are posted on our website, so please have a look, and I think it would be very interesting to see some of those, since we're all trying to do a better job with recycling, etc. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Councillor Leroux, announcement?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to announce that we have a senior drivers and the license renewal process event taking place Thursday, April 26th at the Brian Orser Hall from 10 until 11:30.
And Councillor Lauder.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to announce that on Tuesday, April the 17th, we'll be holding an open house here to talk about temporary garages. Now, there will not be a presentation per se. However, there will be lots of documentation, and there will be staff here to answer questions, if there are any, regarding the temporary garages and how the council is going to be looking into that subject in the near future. Now, to add to that, there's also a survey that is present, and that is present on the water bill, our website. It's been tweeted, and it's present on Facebook, so there's lots of ways of getting to it. But the survey will ask for your personal opinions, so council can be very, very well informed. I understand that the survey only takes about 4 minutes, 10 simple questions, so I really employ everyone to try to, get your feelings heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other announcements? See, I'll just get an inquiry, maybe for Director Brian Murray. I know it's early days for Main Street, Brian, but maybe a quick update. We see people up and down the street. We see activities, and one of the questions that came up today, Brian, was some of the merchants were wondering when we start to get those directional signage that will point to how to get to their stores and keep their business doors open. So I assumed in my answer today, Brian, was that once we get the steam shovels, we start digging, that type of signage would come up. But if you could speak to overall the signage and also how it's going so far.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've heard the same concerns. So we've had discussions with our contractor, and we expect to have the business-specific signage for the pedestrians on the main street, as well as the alternative parking arrangement signs in place by the end of the day on Friday this week. We also have the detour signage in place, but we also realize that that's important as well. So we've just started this week with the pulverization on the bottom end of the main street, and it's proceeding well. And we have the temporary sanitary sewage bypass systems in place, and we're working on implementing the temporary water systems so we can start with the deep servicing moving forward.
Great, thank you very much for that update. Any other announcements or any other inquiries? Oh, Jeff, CEO, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just thought while we're announcing upcoming sessions, there is a municipal election candidate information session 1 week tonight, being held at the North Simcoe Recreation Complex in Midland. That's being hosted by the 4 municipalities, and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs will be in attendance to kind of guide that evening and do a Q&A for any interested potential candidates wishing to run in the upcoming municipal election. It starts at 6:30, sorry.
Thank you very much for that. Alrighty, moving on to agenda item number 17. It's confirmation bylaw. It's moved by the Deputy Mayor, moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that the confirmation bylaw 2018-24 be signed and sealed by the Mayor and Clerk. And all in favor of that motion?